I have to comment on Marv's comment. Years ago, we used to celebrate the Setter, the Passover. That's a Jewish tradition. And in fact, we had so many people wanted to come to it, we had to do it twice. It was like a room for 20 in our house, and the tables we had there. It was a bigger house than what I have now. But one time, part of the tradition is at the beginning, you go outside and you say in a loud voice, "All who are hungry, welcome, come in and eat." We kind of said that rather softly sometimes because we didn't want anyone in our neighborhood to come in and eat with us. So it's like, this thing he said about welcoming people. Well, just one time there was a couple walking down the street, a nice couple, and a couple of teenagers that looked fairly decent, nice clothes, but they were on, they have skateboards, they come in, and we said this, and the couple said, "Us? Oh, well, sure." And they walk up, and the teenagers go, "Huh? Really?" And they pick up their skateboards, and they walked up to us, and they walked in the house without further ado, and sat down at the table. And my guest over there, doing this ritual is part of the ritual that we just do, expecting no results and hoping for no results. And they looked aghast, like, "What do we do now? There's people that we don't know sitting at our table." They're probably sitting where I was going to sit, as we walk in, and the joke was on them because that was Cheryl's brother and wife and their kids that we had told to come.
Oh, that's typical.
And yes, it was my idea.
Yeah, Larry, I have to spin off of that. I heard our vice president say the other day that, I don't know how that was going. They were going out to pick up survivors in the floodwaters after the hurricane. She said, "We're going to pick them up by color first. So if there's a white man floating down, they're going to pass him up to look for a black man or whatever her intentions were." And it appalls me that there'd be any separation whatsoever. We're all human beings.
Okay, we're not gonna do anything political here. I meant to announce that. And so there's no verification in the truth of that also. So, please let's refrain again, in the future.
Oh my goodness, you've got the gag order. So I'll get on with my talk, which is actually it's about, I'll tell you the name of my talk. It's listening to other people tell their stories. And but there's this word in Welsh, "Hiraeth." Doesn't it sound like a Welsh thing? It's a good Irishman would be sitting here and he would say some word like that. Hiraeth. Everyone can say that with me. Say it. Hiraeth. The F on the end is represented here by a TH. No wonder we can't pronounce Welsh words. They're not spelled correctly. They're spelled like Welsh. Anyways, there's no one word for it in English, but this sentence here kind of sums it up. Hiraeth, a longing for a place or time that the soul once knew. So, what does it mean to be human? How do we spend our days? How do we face the troubles of this world? How do we address the heartache for the life we were meant to live, but can't figure out where it is or what it is? How do we find a place or time that our soul once knew? In another time, in another setting, long ago, it was as important for humans to sit around and tell stories to each other as it was to eat and breathe. This is the way it was. We didn't have all the stuff we have now. We sat around and we told stories. Why was this so important to them? Telling stories gives us a sense of belonging. It's hard to say. What does it do? It just makes us feel good. It makes us feel connected. But it goes deeper than that. There's this psychological meaning. Leave it to the psychologist, to come up with something that's different. that we have to think about, okay? It makes us think. We are relational beings. We know, we need each other in order to become ourselves. And it's the storytelling. When we tell stories to each other, it makes us feel good about each other. It's hard then to demonize the other, to ridicule, to hate. Because that's the person that told me that great story. I can't believe that happened to him. He might have been lying. You never know, but it was a great story. And you know what? It's not rocket science. This is the way humans were built. Storytelling and feeling good about it and feeling good about each other through the process. The Dalai Lama, he was asked by an interviewer what he could do. What can you do? What should we do to promote a world peace that can stick? And we really get people to move together and feel a unity and a brotherhood and sisterhood. You know what his answer was? Can you imagine him, this short little Oriental guy? Oh, more picnics. That was his answer. Seriously, he said, more picnics. You want world peace? Have more picnics. So what are picnics? It's where we okay, we're sitting around, maybe have a ball, we kick it around, we share food, we share stories. It's about storytelling. Now, there's this man, Alain de Botton, a writer, and he was stationed at the London airport, the Heathrow airport. At the terminal, where we don't get to stand anymore because after 911 we couldn't do that. But back then, when he was doing this, you could go there and you could watch people come off the plane and their loved ones were there right at the terminal waiting to, I really miss that. But that was so much fun to see their sparkling eyes as I got off the plane, or if they got off the plane, I was meeting them. Anyways, he watched everyone that got off the plane, and without exception, every single person that got off the plane looked around as if looking for someone. Even though they may have had their car in the parking lot, even though they may have gotten tickets to take them on, train tickets to take them on further, and they knew that no one was going to wait for them. They may be saying to themselves, maybe my husband is here to surprise me. Maybe one of my older children, maybe they've come to welcome me here. Maybe I know someone here. Maybe someone wants to meet me and welcome me here. Well, interestingly, it's something down deep in our psyche that causes this. Again, a psychologist said this. A fundamental hope that lurks beneath all our activity, that we might be seen and welcomed. Oh, there's this grandmother. Let's see, what was her name? I don't have it here. Grandmother, and she's talking to her granddaughter, and she says, this cottage, we've had this cottage a long time, and you're a great grandfather. He built this fireplace by going down to the creek down the way and gathering stones. And we've been using it all this time. And then his son, your grandfather, he built this room, this kitchen, and he built your parents' bedroom. And you can see the beams. Those beams are from trees that he cut on this very land that we live in. And, you know, your mother grew up here. And she used to play hide and go seek down in the basement. So the stories went on and on and on. And stories were giving something to the granddaughter. Okay, granddaughter gets something. What's she getting? History, connection to the land, to the people that's in her family. The stories are really important. So this, and it was one of the books I read somewhere. Children that can answer questions like, how did your parents meet? What country is your grandfather from? These children were by far more balanced, socially, intellectually, everything. They were better for it. It's important to know who we come from. It's important to hear the stories. Mark Gianconelli, tells this story. And he was at a Christian summer camp, and this was his last time because he was an older teenager. And he was asked by the dean if he would get up at the closing ceremony to bear his testimony of, tell the story of his life, and especially how he felt about the Christian faith. And he says, include any doubts you might have. We want to hear, and he didn't know what to think about that. He spent all day walking in the woods trying to figure out what in the world he could say. His life had been difficult that year. His father had quit his job as the pastor of the local church where they attended and moved in with his secretary. Oh, that's horrible. But then on the other hand, his mother had just been put in a psychological hospital after spending weeks driving haphazardly across the USA, thinking that she was being pursued by the FBI. So she had difficulties. Well, he gets up there. It's up in the top of, on a cliff, an outcropping where you can see the whole valley, and the stars looked as close as fireflies. And they had some singing, and then he was asked to stand up there. And he was standing there in front of the fire, a silhouette. You've been there where you have campfires, you stand in front of it, you can't really see the person. He stood there and he was in silence. He really, really didn't know what he could say. There were no words. What could he say? His life was, he was living with his mom part of the time, then she went bonkers. She already was, but then he had to move back with his dad, which he hated at that time. And he just stood there in silence. And the last he broke down crying. I'm sorry. Now I'm gonna cry. But he had nothing to say. He was in such pain. He couldn't say. So there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of us. So telling our stories is like opening a window through which we can suddenly see those around us and ourselves with honest clarity. Each story brings us a little closer to healer. Stories heal broken heart. Or a fit of depression. They uplift us. They give us peace. They awaken love. The boy who couldn't tell his story, why was it so hard for him to speak? This topic of storytelling is related to fear. And I got to tell you a little story about this, see if you can guess where it comes from. This is about a little boy, and his name is Little Grasshopper.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. Kung Fu, the TV show from the 70s. I remember a scene from there, and they're in a dark cave, and the master has his little cane there, and he's going to test him concerning fear. And he says, look at the pool. It's a dark pool in a dark cave, and there's a blank plank just across it. He says, you are to walk the plank. You can do this easily, but let me warn you, that liquid down there is a strong acid, and if you fall in, you will die a most horrible death. Look at the bottom of the pool. You can see the bones of a student just like you that fell in. Be careful. You can do it easily. Don't look down at the bones. We started walking across, and of course he had to look down. And he got so nervous that he fell off the plank and splash and a scream, ah! And then he swam across to the edge and got out, and he says, it was only water. And the master says, yes, it was only water. Then he asked, what made you fall in? Fear made you fall in, little grasshopper. Only fear. You experience something or observe it, and then you feel a particular emotion about it. Fear in this case, okay? As it turns out, there's an extra step, an intermediate step between the experience and your emotion. And that is the story you tell about what happened. We all do this. Again, human inclination. We tell stories, and most of them aren't true. You know, we might think they are sometimes even, but so I lost my place amongst all these words. And so we tell the stories, and so succinctly we can say we observe, we tell a story, and then we feel. The stories we invent, judgments that we make, create our feelings, not the actual experience or event. And here's a good one, it should be in bold. It is physiologically impossible for fear and love to coexist. You're gonna have one or the other, not both, says the book. By the way, it was your book, and thank you very much. I gathered little bits and pieces, and I had to add them into my talk at the last minute. The feeling you want to have in step 3, after the event and the story, the feeling you want to have is love. So when we witness, when we are watching someone else's life story, don't make up for the life event, someone else's life, you're watching them. Don't make up their story, that's their job. Let them tell their story in their own words, you listening. If we step into the reality of another person's existence, instead of judgment, we feel kinship. And let us give ourselves the same courtesy. Don't make up stories about your own life experience. Tell the stories which reveal the truth about who you really are. So that begs the question, who are you? I got a quote. This is a quote from John Wellwood, which I enjoyed the book, and I have it here to get back to you. We live on an island of our conditioned self, a complex of memories, notions, and images of ourselves that constitute our identity as we know it. Yet the larger expanse of our being, its vastness, intensity, and depths, we do not usually identify as intimately our own, even though this larger being is more truly who we are, since it is not an invention like the stories we tell ourselves. We do not know it as our true nature. There was a son and a father having a conversation. And the father says, son, I'd like to tell you something. No matter what you do in your life, know this, my door is always open. And the son was just a teenager at the time, but he felt that that was so important. He decided he better remember it. His father was dead 3 years later. And he thought about it, and he decided that that had a meaning that was so much deeper than just what he said. What this father was really saying is, son, whatever you do in your life, know this, the door to my heart will always be open to you. Whoops, there we go again. Yeah, my wife says, oh, you're just a crybaby. But my door to my heart will always be open to you. If you go give those words to someone close to you, and you really mean them, they come from your heart, that's important, then that person will reach upwards, not downwards, to meet that love. If you find it difficult to say the door to my heart is open to you, to another person, whatever they do, then you're going to find it infinitely more difficult to say that to yourself. To say, me, the one I've been so close to for so long as I can remember, myself, the door of my heart is open to me as well. All of me, no matter what I have done, come in. When we do this, a part of ourself answers, the part that has been left out in the cold outside of ourselves. And as you welcome all of the parts of yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, warts and all, invite it in and say, you're welcome into my heart. It's what, just not even a word, we use words like freeing and, happy, and none of this applies. It's just a wonderful, open, vast, open feeling. We feel what we know we are whole, that we have everything that we are within ourselves, and we're giving it honor. Listen to your elders, the admonition goes. Aside from gaining wisdom, it might mean to sit down with your elders and listen to them tell their stories. Listening is an act of love. What is love? Community at its best. We're a community. We can dig deeper in that. Where is love found? In the moment, called mindfulness by the Buddhists. In that moment, when you're giving all your attention to another, listening and being heard, you make a shift from thought to awareness, which is the larger space in which thoughts and feelings arise. In this larger space, you will find love. You won't be able to help it. It's the way humans were designed. There's a part of us, a presence, which is beyond thoughts and feelings, beyond our human conception of who we are. So the first time I ran into this presence in my own life, in a very strong way, actually, I was overwhelmed. I had no idea what I had awakened. It was so strong. But something shifted in me. I was never the same. From that day forward, there was always, is always a silence under everything that I could feel. That's that other part of self. That's not thoughts, not feelings. It's who we are when we're not being human. It's there, and you find it in the moment. Listening, being listened to, loving, and then you know who you are. It has nothing to do with this earthly existence. Life, a longing for a place or time that the soul once knew. What is that place or time? What is life? The door of your heart being open, first to yourself and then to all the world. What do you see? Community, and beyond that, the larger space from which thoughts and stories arise. Your true self. Now, I have created a beautiful tapestry, a story for you to take home and ponder. May your pondering turn into an open heart, and may your open heart turn into loving actions. It all starts with an attentive ear and a willing tongue. And I have a little music for you. So we have a moment for meditation. And let the music be a bridge to take you into the quiet place in your own way. And so breathe, slowly breathing down. And I got a song. Turn this off.